Welcome to Life-Changing Challengers, the podcast where passion meets purpose. I'm Brad Minus, your host, guiding you through stories of transformation and triumph, from endurance feats to overcoming adversity. Our guests defy the limits and inspire action. Ready to ignite your desire and incinerate your barriers? Join us. Your journey to the extraordinary begins now. Hey, and we're back with another episode of Life-Changing Challengers. I'm super excited to have Sherman Perryman. He's an author, he's a coach, he's an entrepreneur. He wrote this amazing book called Grit to Greatness. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And he's got his own platform called the Militant Grind. So Sherman, hey, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing amazing. How about you?
I am the same because I'm talking to you. So, and we're going to bring some knowledge to the audience here. But first of all, let me just ask you kind of the same question I ask everybody is, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, what was the complement of your family, and what it was like to be Sherman as a kid?
Well, I grew up in the South Bay of Los Angeles area, in a two-parent household. And growing up was pretty interesting. Like I actually had a conversation with one of my early childhood friends a couple of years ago, and it was just like, who in the world would allow us to do the things that we did as children? It was kind of like, where were the parents? Where was our guardians? Because we would I was 8 years old, 7 years old, walking 2 miles in the, where we lived at in San Pedro to go swimming, and I'm looking at my kids and I was just like, what, how would they, what? And we would hop the gates at a high school and, throw our bikes over and ride down the stairs, and we would do very, very risky things, and we talked about it. It was just like, man, like, what were we thinking? Like, what was going on? So it was quite adventurous. And then once we moved into our house, like we moved into a different neighborhood, and we had a home that we actually had to fix and work on every single day almost, like my dad was kind of like a do-it-yourself type of guy. And with that, it's like, okay, we know we have to do the yard, do this and do that. But it was like, we still wanted to be children. And it was hard to have a childhood and, play with our friends and go outside and do this and do that while we're trying to maintain this house that we had to just do everything ourselves. And so it gave us a work ethic, but I still feel like something was still missing, because when you grow up with a father that was ex-military, when he's waking you up at 7:30 a.m. and you got to go in the yard and do this or do that, and you haven't ate breakfast yet, and you first eat breakfast in the afternoon, like you absolutely hate it, with a passion. It's like, why is this happening to me? And you're forced to do it. There's no love. There's no compassion. There's no empathy. Nobody cares how you feel, and it's just kind of like, damn, like, what's going on? In order to cope with it, I had to learn how to deal with myself internally. And it's kind of like, well, my mom's allowing him to do it. He doesn't care. No one's coming here to say, man, why don't you give those kids a break? So it's like, I had to learn how to do it on my own. And so I feel like that's what made me a little bit different as a kid, whereas I had to be more proactive to seek different things to help out like my self-esteem personally. So I digged into music. I would listen to music all day. I had a CD player, and for Christmas, we got a CD burner, and I was like, okay, this is going to be my escape. So I would download music, put it on the CD, and just drift away, because that was like my safe space. And then I got into reading and things like that. So yeah, that was pretty much how I was as a kid.
Did you play any sports?
No, I didn't.
Not at all. No organized sports whatsoever.
No, surprisingly, I played basketball at the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
Won a championship, and I would play basketball at the YMCA. But other than that, we weren't really put in organized sports like that. And it's crazy because I have some brothers that are like 6'3", 6'2". They wanted to play basketball, and I think one did for a while, but I don't think we were like pushed like that. It was because even though, like, it kind of got to me now as like a grown man when, I was the only black kid on the team at the Boys and Girls Club. This is before we moved to Carson, which was a predominantly black neighborhood. And people, I think they probably assume that, wow, this black kid doesn't have a mom or dad to come watch them play. Like parents didn't come to not one game. I would leave at night at like 10 years old to go play at the Boys and Girls Club. I won the championship and got taken to, get pizza with other people's family, and my family was not there, and I didn't really think about it as much until I got older. And I was like, what the,
yeah.
what? Like, you guys didn't come to not one game. Like, I won a trophy and all of that. But it was like, they just, either they didn't care or they had something else going on. I don't know, but it's really hard for me to even remember my father from like, 10 on down. Like, he was in the house, but it's like, I don't really remember his presence like that. You know what I mean?
Your drill sergeant.
Right.
I've done 9.5 years in the military, so I understand when you say he was ex-military. I understand that. Was he ex-military or was he in the military while you were a kid?
No. Just 4 years. And, even talking to his siblings, they say that once he got in the military and came out, it changed. I also know that, like, talking to other kids whose parents were in the military, especially their father, we've had similar childhoods. It's like they wanted to be in control. I'm not sure how you are as a parent, but back then, there was like, I could listen to somebody and be like, yeah, your parent was in the military, huh? They'd be like, yeah, how'd you know? It's because of how they raised you and their thought process and things like that.
Yeah, no, my parents, well, my dad started it. My mom just followed up behind him. It was like, no, every day bed was made. No matter what, no ifs, ands, buts, beds were made. And clothes were picked up. Now, don't get me wrong. I definitely had my share of dirt in my room, but I was always cleaning my room. But the minimum was bed made, no clothes anywhere. Clothes were put away. That's it. And my dad was in the military as well. So I definitely get it. And that 7:30 wake up to where you got to, just get up, get some shoes on. You're going out to do this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then come back. Yeah. The thing I hated was freaking mowing the lawn. You could not punish me more than to make me mow the lawn. And I get that.
Oh, so. Yeah. And it's like somebody yelling at you, at the top of the lungs, and you're outside mowing the lawn and you look across the street, all the kids are just having a good time, just being kids, But if there was I feel like if there was a little bit of compassion put into that, where it was like, hey, come mow the lawn. Thanks, son. You did a great job. Let's go get some ice cream. I'll probably feel better, but it was more so like, do it because I said it. It was kind of like, I felt like a slave almost. Like I had no control of my life. There was no reward. It was like, do it because I said it. If not, you're going to be punished.
Yeah, I got the second part, but I did get, hey, did you finish the lawn? Yeah. Did you bag it? Yeah. Where are the bags? They're on the side of the house. Good job, brother. And then move on. So I did get that. So I got a little bit of that. And then I would get more of that positive reinforcement when I did it without them asking. If I got up at 7:30, went out, did the lawn, put everything away, then I would get more positive because I did it on my own. Right. But I can see where that can lead into, you being forced this militant mindset where now you're using it to help other people. Mm-hmm. So I think that's amazing. So talk to me about what was high school like?
High school was pretty interesting. I went to 3 different high schools, some in South Central Los Angeles. I had some problems in high school as far as my behavior, grades, and things like that. But I feel like I was probably just around kids that didn't care as much about their education. When you're in the inner city and people are picking on you, you have to have some type of defense. I just created a defense mechanism from anybody saying something to me or doing anything. I was more so like, I had to defend myself from my dad talking mess all day, from, trying to make sure I'm not getting bullied or punked or talked about or whatever at school. So I just created like a defensive mentality, and I started lifting weights. In the 9th grade, I had weightlifting actually a class, and I was like, I want to be the strongest, or stronger, period, because if somebody comes at me, I know how to defend myself. I always wanted to be a good student, but I just feel like there wasn't really a space within the household to like study. Like I didn't even know that I would need to use a highlighter or flashcards or this, is that, and the third to like, study. I saw that in college, but in high school, I don't feel like my parents really like said, okay, guys, where's your homework? Let's do your homework, sit at the table, do this. It was more so like, okay, we got to eat. Who's cleaning up the kitchen? Who's cleaning up this? Nope, I don't care. Clean up, clean up, clean up, clean up. And it was like, man, when am I going to have the chance to do my homework? Because I already got to wake up and go to school all the way in, LA, and we're living in Carson it's not all the way, but let's just say I had to take transportation to go to school, probably about 45 minutes. So it was like, I really didn't have any time to do that. It was more so do what we want you to do, and whatever it is for you comes last. So it was like, I really wish it would have been different, because I know even me and my brothers who, we're all a year apart, have the potential. And, it got so crazy is that they recognize that even as an adult, where it was like, man, I always had the potential, but I just didn't have the space to be able to live within my potential. One of my brothers' grades were so bad and behavior was so bad that he didn't walk the stage in middle school. But then as an adult, he's also currently serving in the military as well. He went to college and he's getting straight A's, always been smart. But I feel like some people just don't have the space to be able to dwell on their intelligence and stuff like that. So a lot of us are thinking about it. Well, me and my siblings are just like, wow, man, like, why didn't they, what happened with this or what happened with that? But it was like, what can we do? It is what it is. Because I feel like with my mind and my intelligence, if I would have been treated a different kind of way growing up, no telling where I would be now. But it's like you come home, and my mom and dad worked, and they're still together to this day. And the first thing is just like, clean up. I don't care about this. Just clean up. No, we need to do this. We need to do that. But it's like, especially like say Asian kids, or I'm not sure how it is in everybody's household, but hearing that Asian kids spend hours, a day studying, I didn't even really know what that looked like until like later on in life. Yeah, I just felt that I just didn't get it, like maybe something is wrong with me, but I now understand that people really sit down and put hours into research and studying. It's not a magic pill. You just did not do that. And that's the difference between you and them, really, is that they put forth the effort.
Now, you're absolutely right. The education in the Asian culture seems to be a lot more of a priority. But there are some people that I've talked to that's even overboard. They're like, where the parents are like, oh, did you study? Yes, I got everything done. Great. Well, what about next week's homework? Oh, well, I've got that done too. What about the week after? Do you have that done? Are you ahead of your lessons? You need to be ahead of your lessons. You need to always be ahead, and then how then they would look at their kids. I want you to read this, 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 and this too. I want you to know everything possible there's nothing that you're going to be able to get asked in school that you can't answer. So it could even go overboard, right? Where you were basically said, here's the chores. We need to get these chores done. A lot of that culture is like, you're not done. You're never done on your education. So they're stuck. So while you were looking at your kids, looking at your friends while you were doing chores and working on the house and going, God, I wish I was there. A lot of these kids are like sitting at their desk, looking out the window going, God, I wish I was out with my friends. I got to study. So right. Both sides, right? So you mentioned you went to college. Where did you go to school?
I went to Morehouse College in Atlanta.
Nice. Yeah, that's a country apart.
Actually, one of my childhood friends was going there, and we was going there at the time, and I was going to a junior college in LA, and, it was just a lot going on in LA as far as like the gangs and stuff like that. And, I was like, man, I want to get the hell out of here. Like, it is just crazy, like standing outside, guys pull up on you, draw guns down on you, like multiple guns. And I was like, man, I don't want to do this. And so I just came up with the idea to move to Atlanta with him and be a roommate with him. And the crazy thing about that story is that The guy, only I went, and me and my friend I was currently going to Morehouse, we lived together. And the guy who didn't move with us, who ended up staying in LA, he actually ended up getting shot and is paralyzed from the neck down and been that way for about, I think, 15, 17 years or something like that. So it was kind of like, wow, and then thinking about it, the people he was with and everything like that, I was like, man, what would have stopped me from being in the car as well? Because, yeah, it was like they were literally around the corner from my house, not too far. But it's a very surreal thing. So I was just like, oh, man, but getting out of LA, separating myself from a lot of things was probably one of the biggest blessings ever,
So what about the culture? Was there a shift when you went to Morehouse as far as the people around you and the feeling?
Yeah, definitely. Because it was a whole different type of environment. It's usually we don't really see ourselves and how we're acting in certain situations. We think that the way we're acting is normal. So when I first got there to when like a couple of years after, I've had some of my friends tell me like, wow, bro, you did like a 360 compared to like when you first got here. Because my mindset was just different. I was a LA guy, you know what I mean? So it was like the way I talked, the way I thought, my thought process, it was like, different. And then when I went out there, I just feel like I released a lot of stuff or released a person that I didn't have to be, and I noticed that when I came back, the way I looked at everything was just like, what the hell is going on out here? But when you're put away from a certain lifestyle and a situation, and then you come back, you start to look at the flaws of it. And so me going to Atlanta probably was one of the biggest helpers when it came to my life. But then also had a lot of time with myself and a lot of time where it was like, okay, everybody's out of town or they went home and I had to stay in Atlanta during the summer because I had a job or I had this going on. So it was a pretty interesting.
Was changed. Can you just give me an example?
Well, it was different seeing other Black men, wanting to be better, wanting to be educated, going for jobs that like I would have never thought that we could have, because Atlanta is a predominantly Black city with a Black mayor and, all Black police officers, all of that compared to LA, Black judges. I seen all of that. So, going out there and just seeing it being possible for us to be better or for us to go for different things that, I did not see ever in LA. Like seeing a Black judge, that would have shocked me, or a Black lawyer or anything, I would have been like, what? Like, cause out here, the majority of Black people have the same type of jobs. It's like, hey man, I heard they're hiring at the docks, just so you can get in because I heard they make money. Oh man, I'm gonna do that. If I get it, it's like you want to do whatever everybody else is doing to make some money. And it's kind of like, I'm sure it's like that in other cities. It's like, say, if you were in West Virginia and you wanted to make money, you would, probably work at the coal mine or something like that. So same with Boston, you might work on the docks or whatever, but I just wanted more. I seen that in Atlanta, going to a Black person's office and they're trying to help me get hired with MetLife Insurance Company, like a major insurance company, or New York Life. And it really like shook me, or it was like, wow, we can be in these spaces. We are in these spaces. It's all our thought process. But if you never see it, it's hard to believe it.
That's interesting. So I just want to ask one more question on this, then I want to move on. When you went back to LA after being at Morehouse, was there a shift where you were able to actually see your friends again, talk to your friends again and go, you've got potential, but you don't see that you've got potential? Was that some of the things that were like, go through your mind? You're like, oh my God, you can actually do something else. I've got an idea for you. Versus before, when it was like just what you said, you're like, all right, what's the next gig that can get me some money?
It was during the recession. So that's the time where it was like no one had money and we all had to be entrepreneurs almost and figure it out. And so I would be the one to figure it out. Like, hey, you guys, we could do this or we could do that or we could become this. And through that, I know I helped a lot of people, when it came to their entrepreneurship journey for sure. I help people pioneer all kind of businesses just based off of, how creative I was, like a lot of people can attest to that in LA. But then it was like, someone telling you what you can do, what you should do, but you end up doing it. I mean, you don't really need me after that, but I just know that, and we both should know that I was probably the one to spark that idea in your mind,
Nice.
To help you make that happen.
So did you become an entrepreneur?
Oh yeah, I had to. I had no choice because it was literally no opportunity at all, especially in LA. It was like I would have been a janitor cleaning toilets if somebody would have paid me. That's how bad I needed money. Like I remember tutoring this lady's son. She was like, "Hey, my son needs a tutor in math," and I would go there for about an hour a week, get that $20, and I would spend $5 out of that $20 buying a chicken meal, eating once a day, eating 4 pieces of chicken, French fries, and a drink, for $5 one time a day. And that was how I was eating. Like I remember going to a burger spot and splitting the burger with my friend, like it was really, really bad.
So what was your first business that you got off the ground where you were not regulated to one meal a day?
I started promoting. So I would promote parties and things of that sort. Me and my friends created a little indie record label and we threw showcases and things like that. I feel like that was a great thing for me in hindsight because I ended up networking and knowing so many people in LA and my name got out there where it was kind of like advantage for me to start a business because I had such a large network of people who knew who I was. So when you're promoting parties and you're 23 and, that's what 22, 23-year-olds want to do, it just makes sense. So, I look at that space now like, wow, that was a very, very great thing to do because when I started my tax business a couple years after that, it just blew up and everything else just, whatever I do because people know who I am. They trust me. Oh, you're doing this now? Okay, well, yeah, bro, I need this and I need that. So when I started promoting, my whole thing was to like try to add as many people on Facebook that look cool as I could, or follow people on Instagram or, using social media as a tool to help expand my network. And that actually helped me.
So you said your tax business. Can you just explain to me what was the scope of your tax business?
Well, my tax business started, I would say, in 2012. I actually learned from an accountant that I went to real estate school with. And my thing was like, okay, man, look, I'm 26, 25. No one is getting, is buying a house my age in LA. I can't even connect. So it's like I'm in the real estate business, but it's like, who wants to hire a young kid to help them buy a house? Now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, I was doing things way too early. I feel like when it came to, like say if somebody is in their mid 30s and then there's a 24, 25-year-old kid, I'm like, I'm not playing with you. Like, what do you know? So I kind of understood that. And so I was like, I need to do something where it's like, everybody needs it. People could get money off of it. And I was like, okay, taxes is probably where it's at. And so I started that and I would do my friends' taxes. Everybody needs to do taxes every year, help them get a return, off of what I've learned from my friend that's an accountant. And so, yeah, it was like after that, it just blew up. It went crazy. And I was making, great money at that age. Like it allowed me to do plenty of things because I had like a fantastic system on how I would work. I would get it done. I was the one where it's like, if you send me your information, I'm knocking it out. Like, I'm not the type to be like, oh, I'll get it done next week. So I was like super efficient. I would stay up at night after whatever I was doing just to finish people's tax returns, and I wouldn't make a single mistake. Like I prided myself on that. And so, yeah, man, like the service was great. So that's how that came about. And that's how that blew up.
So were you promoting and having your tax business at the same time?
No.
Did you sell the promotion business or just stop promoting?
No. You just stop. Cause it's like, no, it was nothing to sell. I mean, I could have been like, hey, you could buy my Facebook account or whatever, but no, it was just like, nah,
Yeah. So what did you do after that?
I was still doing real estate, like
Okay.
commercial real estate and stuff like that, working with other companies because I really wanted to grow my commercial real estate business, but that was extremely tough, especially out here. But yeah, I was just like, okay, I'm going to grow this business while I'm profiting from the tax business. But the tax business was probably the most profitable. And then I got into contracting and stuff like that. So
contracting as in construction?
Like, no, not contract as a construction. Basically, I would like buy and resell aircraft products.
Yeah. I am telling you, you have been into everything. I've got my own journey like that. Just the highlights. When I left school after my sophomore year, because I didn't know really what I wanted to do. And I felt like I was wasting money. But I got a job because I had 2 years of college and I was decent at math. I ended up getting a job as a stockbroker in downtown Chicago at 19. I went early. So I just like you know what I mean? I wanted to do my best. But just like you, there's no freaking millionaire that's going to look at this 19-year-old kid and invest with him.
Right.
I went through that exact same thing. I eventually went back to school, finished up, and did some contracting. A lot of student loans started coming due and all that stuff. So I ended up going into the military, which was the best thing I ever did. So where did the Militant Grind start? What sparked that idea?
Well, as you know, being an entrepreneur, you kind of have to rely on other people and other resources and stuff like that. And I was working for Southern California Edison, which is a power company in LA, Southern California. And I got laid off and I was just like, man, I'm just so tired of this, like working. You got a good pace going on and then you get laid off. Like, I still have my tax business going on, but I would just pick up something here and then like, oh, okay, working remote. Oh, for sure. I could just do that. You know what I mean? Like, that's not too demanding for me. But then I was just like, okay, I'm into fitness. People always suggest for me to either write a book because I was the kind of person that'll have these thoughts and I'll just put it out on social media, like Facebook, things like that. So I would be like a thought leader, I would say, in a way, like about certain social events, what's going on. And I would just do that just for nothing, and then a friend of mine was just like, man, you should start a personal brand and, just become a figure in whatever, it is you're about. And then I was trying to think of a name and I was just like, I want a name that resonates with me, who I was, my journey and stuff like that. And so, throughout the years, people be like, man, Sherman is like a general, but it all boils down to like how I was growing up, how I was growing up. And I feel like maybe I'm the one that took it even deeper, than the person who you would say is my dad, who you would say is my drill sergeant. I was just like, I have to become resilient, mentally tough. I would challenge myself. I would do the Spartan races just for nothing, Hey, y'all want to do the Spartan race with me? Nah, you can do that by yourself. I was like, oh, okay. But I was always looking for a challenge to overcome because the more challenges that you overcome, the better off you would be mentally, kind of like David Goggins does the same thing, but I'm not like as extreme as him. But yeah, I would figure things out. And I was like, you know what? I'm just create a brand. And the name Militant Grind just popped in my mind. And then I was just like, what? And then I looked it up because I always have a rule. I'm not getting a name unless I could find a .com. If it's not such and such .com, I'm not touching it. That .co, that .info, or all of that stuff it just confuses people. And so I looked at militantgrind.com. I was like, what? This is available? No one else thought of this name, and so, yeah, it just stuck from there. And then I ended up noticing that, when people would see it, when they would hear me talk about it or, whatever, they'll be like, wow, that is a perfect name for you, perfect brand for you.
Well, I got to tell you, you've already mentioned something. You mentioned two things that I got to comment on. First of all, is the idea that you talked about that you did challenges, that you kept challenging yourself and that your mental, that you were increasing mental capacity, you were increasing an energy. And at least that's what I got from it. that you would, your confidence, everything else would get better, which is exactly what this friggin' what this podcast is all about, right? Challenging yourself to change your life.
Right.
And it sounds like that was a spark that got you to, okay, this is the new thing now. Someone says do a brand. Hey, great idea. Let's move on with that. You found Militant Grind. But exactly. But that's what I was going to tell you. Did you read both of David Goggins' book?
I think I listened to the first one.
Oh,
yeah.
First of all, was that amazing?
Yeah.
I mean, so that's the first time that anybody's ever done that the way that do that. I read the book the first time, and then someone told me they didn't say anything about it. They said, go listen to it. And the way that Adam would read it and then stop and he'd be like, and he said the same thing every time. Did you remember that? He said, Goggins, man, we got to unpack this. You could hear him like waving his face, his neck around while he was saying it. And then David would talk. So any of you, that is the best way to listen to that. But you got to listen to the second one. He does exactly the same thing. But what's really interesting, because you went through it, he goes a little deeper into his childhood, and his mom moves in with their grandparents, and his grandfather was militant, and his grandfather would get him up every morning to do chores, and he didn't go to school till after his chores were done, just like you. So you're gonna love that part of the book. Yeah. So that's
now I'm really motivated because he has a brother that's pretty successful too. But it's like I feel like when it comes to successful people or people that achieve monumental things, there's always a dark side that pushes them. And his grandfather might have been creating his dark side to push him to be great. That's, because I'm sure I'm not going to say he probably is going to do that with his kids because he hated it, but it's like it's always something like that drives people to be hard on themselves, to be tougher or to be greater, or to not be average. So I highly do not doubt that is, I would love to, I'm just going to hear it and figure it out.
Yeah. I think you'll really enjoy it. The other thing that is you both have in common is, so he had this through his childhood, just like you did, right? But you also said that then you got into high school and kind of got mixed in with the wrong crowd, and you wanted to, you wanted to better yourself, but you didn't know how. And remember, if you think about the beginning of the first book, he was an exterminator. So he had kind of gone off a path as well. He had played the victim, and then he ended up becoming an exterminator and the whole bit. And it wasn't until, and that was after kind of failing out of the Air Force. He wanted to be a paratrooper, a pararescue. And he got out of the Air Force, then ended up doing exterminator. And it wasn't until he saw the commercial for Navy SEALs that something sparked in him. And it sounds the same thing with you. You went to Morehouse and you were able to change, and maybe a little bit of that way you grew up kind of went, okay, and to get involved in your work ethic. I'm guessing, I'm taking what you're telling me and kind of looking at it, and especially since listening to the books, it just kind of it feels like that path is about the same. So I think you resonate I think that might be the reason why you might resonate with him.
Yeah, I connect with David Goggins on a deep, deep level.
Me too.
He would be the type, I'll listen to him and sign up for a Spartan race, I got to do it. So I've done that several times. Yeah. I have to challenge myself. But we have different lifestyles and stuff like that. But it's if I have to pick one person that I could closely relate to, as far as what they think about themselves or, their mentality, because I know he said he had some neurological differences in his brain. I'm not sure what he said exactly, dyslexia or something like that.
Yeah.
But I ended up figuring out that I'm neurodivergent, and it was hard for me to figure myself out. I always knew I was different. Why do I think differently than everybody else when it comes to stuff? I don't watch sports, I don't drink alcohol, I don't smoke. The only time I really wanted to do it was if it was a social thing and I was trying to fit in on the crowd, but I was never, ever, ever the type to be like, hey, y'all, I brought some weed and I brought some drink. I was like, oh, if you got it and it's there, I'll drink it to fit in with you, And some people think that that's weird to this day. Like I would go to the movies by myself and I'll just do different things. Then I figured once I talked to a therapist, psychiatrist, it was like, oh, you're, neurodivergent. And I was like, oh, snaps. And that was like the answer to like everything that I've been searching for my whole life. Like, what is it about me that makes me so different than everybody else, And so him being able to admit that and go through his struggles and things like that, it like really resonates with me, because a lot of people, I feel like they, they're okay, but I'm just like, I just don't see the pain, the mentality, like the real struggle. Because some people can be motivational based off of their success, but David is motivational based off of how he dealt with his pain, and that's how I really feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. His, so I don't know if you read into the bio or anything, but I'm an endurance coach, right? I show people the path to do their first marathon, or even down to the point where people are like doing their first 5K. They never run freaking 3 miles in their life. And starts there and moving, and usually they ends up moving up. I train Ironman triathletes, ultra runners, that type of thing. And of course, because I'm in the ultra runner community, that's where like I kind of like snuck in with David and started listening to him. And now if I'm on a run and I'm feeling like hell, I focus in on him. And I'm like, and it's almost like I should be wearing a bracelet that says WWDD. And like, what would David do? And I'm like, he would keep going no matter what. He'd keep going, and I've done that. I've been in the middle of an Ironman where I was like, I was ready to go. I'm like, you know what? I'm suffering. Everything, nothing's working. My time's going to be crap. And I don't know why I'm doing this. And then I would just kind of like sit down and like going, well, that suffering's where you're made. Suffering's where your character comes out, where, you've got to embrace it. And I would just keep going. And before you know it, I'd find some extra energy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I never did. I think well, I know for a fact, the hardest Spartan race I did was called the Big Bear Beast, right?
Yes.
And so have you heard about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, the Big Bear Beast. I'm like, okay, I did the sprint, I did the super. And so I'm like, now I want to do the beast because that means I did all of them, right? And so I'm like, okay, I'm there and I'm like, oh shit, like, why is there people here from different states? Like, what do you mean? Why are you asking me where I'm from? Like, of course I'm from LA. Like, this is where the race is. I had no idea that people were flying all across the country to do the Big Bear Beast in the Spartan community. And I was like, oh shit. And man, you're going up ski slopes, for, I think it was like 9 miles or something. And it was the worst thing of all time. Like I brought my friend with me, and at mile 2, we were like, man, I don't even know if we could finish this off. Like that's how tough it was. You have to be extremely mentally tough to fix that. I mean, people were going to the hospital, and then we're in the high elevation. So, it's like you take 8 to 10 steps, you're out of breath. You can't breathe. And you're just standing on the ski slope trying to catch your breath, along with other people, but you really have to fight. You really have to be in control of your mind and say, look, man, like who the hell is going to come and save you on a ski slope? Like you have to finish this out. Nobody could even drive and come get you. Like you had absolutely no choice. And it was crazy, like what your mind could do when you have no choice. Because if we were just on the street, we could have gave up and be like, hey, man, I'm going to just have somebody ride by and pick me up. But when you're on a ski slope in the mountains and, like, what choice do you have? And then I ended up figuring out that was the most challenging Spartan race in the entire world. And I finished it, and without training, without knowing what to do, any of that, it was like, oh, let's just do it, and got it done. And so when I tell people if I go to a different Spartan race and I'll be like, yeah, I did the beast. I'm like, what? You did that? Are you serious? Even people that worked at the Spartan beast as like a volunteer, the guy was like, you really did that race? I was like, yeah, man, I really did. But yeah, you definitely have to go to a different space. And, since this is life-changing challengers, it's like, I really wanted to talk about that, those type of moments where it's like, man, you want to give up. But then if you put yourself in a place where it's like, you have no choice but to keep going, you'll be surprised on what you can do.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I mean, you don't want to do it. You'll end up pushing yourself, but you could have sat down and somebody would have been, one of the rescue or one of the safety guys would eventually make it over to you and say, hey, you need to help this guy out, whatever, and get you to a point where you could get out. But you're not going to do that. That's if you're going to do that, you might as well just keep moving. You might as well just keep making forward progress, right?
Right. I mean, I'm sure it could have happened, but in my mind, it was like, how the hell are they going to make that happen anyway?
No, right. But yeah. I'm not trying to diminish it. I'm not at all. But I'm saying is that you didn't think of that, and that's strength. That's the strength right there. Is the fact that you didn't even think about it. You're just like, nope, I'm out here in the middle of nowhere, so I might as well just keep making forward progress, and I'm going to finish this damn thing. Been there. So there's the bear beast, but then they've got now they call it the apogee. You ever heard about it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so the apogee is a 24-hour race that Spartan puts on.
Oh, I think I heard about that.
Yeah.
Like the heat something a couple of years ago, hurricane heat or something like that. But yeah, where you work with the team.
They've got a couple of them, and it's only done once a year, or it's done twice a year, one on each side. But you're right about the bear beast, though. The bear beast, as far as the level of difficulty, is still high. It's still much higher. You know what I mean? So the apogee is longer. You got to do a lot more tasks, a lot more things to get done there. But as far as the level of difficulty, the bear beast, I think, is still up there as far as one of the hardest obstacle course races. That's at least in the United States.
Yeah.
So kudos for finishing that sucker, because I don't even know if I could have finished that. I've done 5 Ironmans, and I don't know if I could have finished that. But that's great. So you started Militant Grind. Militant Grind, sorry. You started Militant Grind, and what started attracting people to that? What was your first offer? Let's talk about that. What was your first offer as far as Militant Grind goes?
I really didn't have. Well, I would do like fitness training and stuff like that.
Okay,
that was one of my first offers. But then it was like, even though I do work out, I feel like it's a lot deeper for me when it comes to the connection with people. Like I don't feel like people really look at me as like, oh yeah, this guy could train me to work out. It was like, okay, you work out, but then I know that you can have a much bigger impact than just working out in fitness, and so I started a podcast and, being a guest on podcasts and things of that sort. And so right now I'm like, I also wrote a book. I have a journal out called The Spiritual Grind, my book From Grit to Greatness. And I'm starting to create like a online, like a course and things like that. But I just have to get the back end stuff together. Like I work with some people one-on-one. But then it's just like, I really want to create, like something big, you know what I mean? So that's kind of like in the works at the moment. But it's like, say I have people that I work with one-on-one or people that know me personally and things of that sort. But I just had to like figure out, okay, like what's my best use of who I am. And I feel like being a mental health coach or mental health and wellness is probably like one of the best things that I could do. Because fitness is, that's cool, but I'm like, that ain't really, you know what I mean? Like, that's just, I feel like that can be impactful, but I feel like I could actually do more than that. But then also on top of that, I don't think I have the patience to work out with certain people or train certain people. So just to be honest, man, because I don't know nothing besides go hard, so
right.
If you're not willing to do that, then it's like, I can't really be soft on you or anything like that,
I have interviewed a lot of people that have used fitness, but also do mindset coaching, which is kind of what I'm hearing you kind of explain, to get into that right mindset to make the next step, right? Which is what we're trying to do here. I interview people like you and like other people that, it can give you little nuggets about, things that gives you spark an idea.
Right.
You basically, came and said, hey, I had this militant background and I was actually able to harness it. And then, of course, you talking about being at the bear and then, and moving forward, you're kind of embracing the suck and saying, whatever I do, I'm going to keep moving forward. You deciding that, hey, you know what, we've got a bad economy in LA. So I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to start my own business and I'm going to start promoting parties. Those are big takeaways for people to go, hey, you know what, I'm in a bad 9-to-5 job and you know what I mean? I don't want to be in this 9-to-5 job and blah, blah, blah. Then they listen to it and they're like, well, what am I complaining about? Sherman went back to LA when it was a bad freaking economy, couldn't find a job anywhere and just made his own. I'm like, I'm going to make my own. Those are the things that why I do this, right? Because if just that one, that people take that one nugget and say, you know what, I don't like where I'm at, so I'm going to make my own thing and I'm going to do it that way. And no matter what, I'm going to figure it out. And if it's not going well then, like you did, I'll start something else, which will harness that. So you started the tax business, or I guess you went to real estate school and to keep money flowing, you started a tax business. So those are the things that I'm hoping to help people with. You're the same way. But the coaches that I've heard, mindset coaches, most of them start with fitness, because if you get somebody working out on a regular basis, you get that habit moving. The endorphins, the confidence level will allow them to spur mentally on. So
yeah. Well, no, that's definitely going to be incorporated. Like everyone who I deal with, I push them to do some type of physical fitness, walk, yoga, whatever it is that can keep you consistent that you actually like to do. Swim, do something. I'm not going to say everyone needs to go in there and be a bodybuilder, but, if you're a runner, if you want to ride a bike, if you want to, there's all kind of ways you could do it. Everyone has their own thing, and so I definitely push that. But then if like, say someone contacts me and say, hey, well, diet and all this, I'm like, okay, well, I do have a program for you, like let's work on that. But I still do create programs for people that do ask me and do need it. But yeah, I do feel like that is a great first step, but then there's some people that kind of need a mental health coach as far as like how they think about themselves, how they operate in life, and, what's stopping them from being the best version of themselves. And so that's where I would come in at. And even like the type of people that I work with kind of like amazes me sometimes, like I actually have a judge, you know what I'm saying? So you would be like, what? And people in corporate professions and things like that, I just help them see, just change their perspective when it comes to certain things,
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I'll tell you a quick story and then we'll start wrapping it up. But I get that. I was shocked. So I wasn't shocked to get her as a client, but I have a client that is an MD, right? Mm-hmm. This is what shocked me. What shocked me was she was warming up and she twisted something and she felt this, she felt a pain in her calf.
Mm-hmm.
And her first thought was to call me. I'm like, and I kind of like, are you seriously calling me, Doc? You're calling me? And I'm like, she goes, what? Because I'm an MD. You think I have all the answers? And I was like, well, you did go to medical school. You know what I mean? And she goes, but I don't work with this stuff every day. You do. And I'm like, oh, that's a good thought. And so I gave her a couple of stretches to do to see what she needed to do. I gave her a recovery program and she went on her way. And 2 days later, she was back out running. But I was completely shocked. Like it was the biggest ego boost that I could ever get was to have an MD ask me what to do with her twisted calf.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you've got a judge. So
yeah,
I get it. So, all right. So the book is called
From Grit to Greatness, Harnessing the 5 Pillars of the Militant Grind.
Excellent. And so can you just give us the 5 pillars real quick?
Love, honor, strength, discipline, and wisdom. So
okay.
Those are the 5 pillars. And I feel like all of those kind of make me whole. And love is the first one, and it's coincidence, but then maybe purposeful as well. But I just talk about self-love. So we go back to my childhood and how I felt. I feel like you don't feel like anybody loves you if they're forcing you to work in the yard and feed you at 1 p.m. and stuff like that, So I had to figure out, okay, no matter what happens in life, as long as you have some type of love for yourself, you can get far, because you shouldn't let yourself down. But I feel like I really harness on people loving themselves, because with that, they'll be able to accomplish great feats. Like you love yourself so much, you're going to eat the best food, or, work out and look your best. You're going to talk to yourself a different kind of way, because it's like everything is in the mind, and I will go through self-love very thoroughly in the book.
Great. I think that's an excellent. Yeah, no, I'm stoked. I'm going to read that book too. So we got From Grit to Greatness, and then you've got a journal that goes along with that.
Yeah. The spiritual grind. Yeah. So there's a theme for every month. It's not like dated from like December or whatever. It's like whenever you start, so we go through some militant principles like communication, working together with people, community, things like that. And it's really interesting. I'm kind of surprised how I came up with it, but I was just like, I want to give every month a theme. There's a section where people could write out, what they have gratitude for. I feel like showing gratitude is a very important thing, because we live in a society where it's like we criticize ourselves for what we don't have, And so, I definitely go through that. I'm very proud of that. And I finished that probably like a couple months ago, but yeah, I've been getting some great feedback from that.
Okay. So that's published. That's out there?
Yeah, that's published. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to find them on Amazon, and I'm going to link them in the show notes. I'm also going to link militantgrind.com. That'll be out there. And then you already mentioned that you're pretty active in the socials, right?
Yeah.
So looks like, Instagram,
yeah,
TikTok, and YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And he also has the podcast, The Militant Grind Show, which I'll also link. So we'll get all those links out there for you. You guys need to check this all out. Read the book. Go through 12 months of the spirit of the spiritual guide that he's got. Say that one more time. I'm sorry. The spiritual grit,
the spiritual grind.
Go through that. I'm going to try it as well. And then update me. Go hit the socials for LCC, Life Changing Challengers, and let me know if you picked one up and what you thought of it. All that'll be in the show notes. But Sherman, wow, this has been an excellent a conversation that we've had. I'm glad that we're able to have back and forth, some banter. That's not always the case. A lot of times it's just me asking the questions and pulling things out of people, and I didn't have to do that with you. So I was, that makes my job a lot easier, and it also gets across your message to the audience in a much easier and more efficient way. So thank you for joining us. I totally appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Brad. I really enjoyed this.
Great. And me as well. So for the rest of you, thank you so much. Don't forget to, if you're watching this on YouTube, to hit the share and hit the bell so you get notified the next time that we've got an episode that goes released. Remember that we're now releasing twice a week, so you can get new content both on Tuesdays and Fridays. And also, if you happen to catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if you wouldn't mind leaving a little review, even if it's a bad review, because I'll take the feedback. Just go ahead and put that in there. Just to love to know that you're out there. So thank you very much, and we will see you in the next one.
Well, that wraps up another episode of Life Changing Challengers. I'm your host, Brad Minus, saying thank you for joining us on this journey of transformation. If today's stories inspired you, please take a moment to review, share, and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us reach more listeners and create an even bigger impact. Remember, every challenge is a chance to grow. Until next time, keep pushing, keep challenging, and never stop pursuing your extraordinary.